I know she is not.
Someone call the wee woo machine.
Bitch, I hate it here. What just happened? Grace? Girl, shut up!
I don't see how this is gonna end well. I cannot believe that we have to wait a whole year until we can get answers, but at the same time, I'm not ready for this trilogy to end because it's so near and dear to my heart. Publication date better not be moved, Miss Cassandra Clare, because waiting longer than a year is unacceptable. So, Chain of Thorns, we're gonna need in like a year, please. Thank you.
Child. Anyway, so...
Hello? Hi, hello. So we finally made it. Never thought I'd see the day. Here we are. I've been speechless this entire day. Even the weeks leading up to the release day of Chain of Thorns, no thoughts had empty. I don't know if that's a trauma response, but I genuinely have been dreading this day. Honestly, like, yes, I've been anticipating it. This is my most anticipated book of this year. It would have been a last year, but as we know, it got moved twice. We're not going to talk about it. It is my most anticipated book of this year. Yes, I will not deny that. I will stand by that statement. But not an ounce of my being is excited. I am dreading it. I'm fearful, anxious as hell. That about sums up my initial feelings, or lack thereof, going into this book. I will say the only positive experience thus far, and we just started, is the fact that I have not felt this rush of emotions of waking up early, going to the bookstore, and buying an anticipated book in so long. I genuinely feel like when I was younger and I would go to the bookstore to get a book that I was so excited for. So that's the only like positive I can say right now. We're in this together, for better or worse. This is very heavy. My hand is cramping. If you're watching this, there's gonna be spoilers, so if you haven't read The Infernal Devices, let alone Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron, just save this video, pause, read those, and then come back. You will thank me later. I don't think I can make it through this vlog without it being spoilery. I'm genuinely using this vlog to document this experience because this is truly an end of an era, and I'm not ready to say goodbye to these characters, to this story. I'm genuinely putting this book off for as long as I can, maybe for another hour, but it's been staring at me the entire day. Let's talk theory, shall we? Where to begin? Disclaimer, there are very few of these that I'm actually claiming. A majority of them, I'm terrified that they're actually gonna happen. So it's kind of like this is my therapy vent session before diving in. First and only priority of this book is that James and Cordelia finally get together, their endgame. No shenanigans, no games, no manipulation involved. I need them to stare at each other right in the eye and confess their feelings for each other and just call it a day, please. That's first order of business. In Chain of Gold, word for word, Cordelia mentions how, like, terms of endearment and proclamations of love in English, they don't hit the same. They only scratch the surface compared to Persian terms of endearment. Cordelia had often dreamed of teaching James Persian herself. English endearments were so limited and bland in comparison, but she had always thought Persians thought nothing of telling someone they loved, Farat Besham, I would die for you, or calling that person Nur Cheshmam, the light of my eyes, or Del Baram, the thief of my heart. She thought suddenly of the sparking fire in the whispering room and the smell of roses. So not only does she mention these, I genuinely think that once James fully and transparently confesses his feelings and his love for Cordelia, he's literally gonna say these. In the Chain of Thorns snippet that we did get back in like August, and it's in the back of the Chain of Iron paperback, so if you have it, it's in there. James literally dreams about telling Cordelia, "Khayli khoshgali," which in Farsi means "you're very beautiful." And he memorized that to say to her. You can't tell me he didn't memorize these terms of endearment to tell her. I fully believe that he's gonna confess his love for her in Farsi. Obviously, Cordelia is her most vulnerable when she's speaking Farsi, when she's talking to her loved ones and family in Farsi. So naturally, her speaking to James in Farsi and James speaking to her in Farsi as well would probably make her heart explode, just like mine. By the end of Chain of Iron, everyone's calling Cordelia Daisy. And we know Daisy is like a term of endearment with the Merry Thieves for Cordelia. And of course it originated with James and Lucy. But by the end of Chain of Iron, everyone started calling her Daisy. Yes, that is still a term of endearment, but I feel like because so many people are calling her that now, it's kind of lost its special place or its special meaning between Cordelia and James. So for that reason, I really feel like James is gonna start calling Cordelia Layla. All of her loved ones call her Layla and Layla June. So I genuinely think that James is gonna start calling her Layla June or Layla. Kind of like snowballing into my next point. I really think that Cordelia's family, they've already accepted James, but I feel like they're really fully gonna accept him into their family by giving him a Farsi name. One of the most famous and prolific Persian heroes in the Shahnameh, which is the Persian Book of Kings and like Persian mythology. Rustam is the most prominent and famous Persian hero. And it's mentioned in Chain of Gold, so naturally, I genuinely think they're going to call James Rustam. Teresa already gave him her own term of endearment. I feel like it's not too far to reach for that. As you can probably tell, my theories are mainly in accordance to my priorities in this series, which are Cordelia, James, Alistair, and Matthew. Those are my priorities. Like, I love every single one of these characters, except for Grace Blackthorne. Lucy's also in the trenches. She's in the doghouse for me right now. For the last two books, James, Cordelia, and Matthew are my favorite by far characters in the series. Alistair has really grown on me. And by default, he's also become a favorite character, but those are my three. That's my trio of precious babies. They're my priorities. They're the ones I am most fearful for and the ones I'm most concerned about. I also want to know what in the world is in Cordelia's necklace that James gave her. I need that to be addressed, and I know it's going to be addressed. Upon thinking about it more, I really think it's going to be some sort of situation where it'll allow him to always find Cordelia. Not in the sense of tracking necessarily, but just like, you know, in a way that they always find each other. Cordelia always like presents herself to him when he's in the Shadow Realm. She kind of helps him find his way back home and lead him back to safety and lead him back to her. I really feel this is James's way of him always finding his way back to her, or her always finding her way back to him. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I genuinely think that that's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna scream if there's a Tessa parallel, Tessa's angel necklace and Cordelia's necklace. The Herondales and their necklaces. I also read some Shadowhunter lore, which I had not known about, but in terms of Dark Artifices, so if you haven't read the Dark Artifices, this is going to be a spoiler, but basically Kit's mom had a Herondale necklace, and the Herondale necklace allowed for Magnus to come find her. So I want to say that that's probably Cordelia's necklace. Maybe. That's kind of just feeding my theory that I really think that Cordelia's necklace that James gave her is his way of finding her again. And I really think that's gonna play a role in him going to Paris and finding her and Matthew. Cassie mentioned in one of her teaser videos that she uploaded that Jem not only made a bargain with Belial, but he's now gonna call it in. What could that favor be? I think there's only one other person in the context of the book and what had happened at the end of Chain of Iron. He's gonna call in that favor for Cordelia to help her with her being Lilith's paladin. He made it very clear that Carstairs are always there for each other, and he's always going to be there for Cordelia. Obviously, the bracelet for James, it's been broken. We've dealt with that, but I genuinely believe that's what he's gonna call in his favor for. But the only discrepancy is the fact that I think Cassie said that it was gonna happen towards the end of the book, so I really hope that it does not take that long to deal with Cordelia's Devil's Paladin situation. I am fearful for Thomas and Alistair. I'm scared that one of them is gonna die. I say this again because while Alistair's middle name is that of another famous Persian hero in Persian mythology, he has a tragic death at the hands of Rustam. And while I don't think he's gonna die because of James, I feel like he possibly may die protecting him or Cordelia. I don't claim this. This was just a random thought I had. I don't want this to happen. Just speaking out everything that I can think of. I really hope no one dies, but it's not looking very likely with how Cassie ends her series. We're gonna see. Now for my Matthew theories. My precious baby boy. I am so terrified for him. I'm so scared for him. Of all the characters, I am most terrified for him. Mainly because of all of the foreshadowing I feel like we've been getting in the last 2 books. And how tragic of a character he already is. I'm fearful that he will get a tragic ending. God forbid. Cassie also mentioned in her 2 Truths and a Lie video, it was very blatant which one was the lie. So therefore, the only one who fits the bill of a character dying and coming back to life as a vampire, Matthew. No other character would fit that outcome, especially because throughout all the books, he's constantly talking about Oscar Wilde. He's talking about Picture of Dorian Gray, all about eternal youth, about immortality. He's a fan of Oscar Wilde, Charles Dickens, particularly that of The Great Expectations. Speaking of Great Expectations, Stella, to the last hours of my life, you cannot choose but to remain part of my character, part of the little good in me, part of the evil. I feel as though when Matthew is dying, he's going to be surrounded by the Merry Thieves, but especially by Cordelia and James. He's gonna say those words. He's gonna go, "I'm not fucking done. She's fucking dead." End scene. Aside from the imagery and the talk about immortality, about eternal youth, he also talks very highly of vampires and downworlders, particularly those of the Paris vampire clan. Again, citing from Chain of Iron, Tessa and Will went to Paris to deal with the vampire clan because Charles was messing shit up in Paris and could not handle it. So Will and Tessa had to go and clean up his mess. And during that time, Matthew was talking very highly about the Paris clan of vampires. I'm like, who ended up going to Paris at the end of Chain of Iron? Also, I just find it very strange, like, why would you specifically mention the vampire clan in Paris? Like, I feel like there's just too many parallels. Like, that's just not coincidental. And with Miss Cassie Clare, there are no coincidences. Cassie mentions that the last word of Chain of Thorns is ran. And kind of going into my last theory, the sentence that popped into my brain was, "and Matthew ran." And why would Matthew Fairchild run? Because he turned into a vampire. They also mentioned how there have been some shadow hunters that were changed into downworlders, so you know it is possible. And another reasoning behind that, spoilers for the Mortal Instruments, another reason why some people are not really backing up that theory is the fact that Simon was turned into a vampire, but I feel like the circumstances are very different. Simon was bitten by a vampire, therefore he had to accept his fate. In her video, Cassie specifically says that a character dies and is brought back to life as a vampire. That's completely different from being bitten and accepting your fate. So therefore, this particular situation has not been done on page before. And I think the specific mentioning of Shadowhunters having been changed into downworlders, like that has happened before, I feel like she's really going to address it on page. And who better than Matthew? In addition to that, I know she has said that the family tree, therefore like their death dates and whatnot, they're not accurate. However, based on the information we do have, Matthew does not have a death date. Matthew has his birth date and it's just empty. It's an empty void. So why else would his death date not be recorded? He would literally have to be removed from Shadowhunter Society. You would have to be excommunicated. And the only way you'd be excommunicated is if you do a very grievous crime, or you become a downworlder. All I'm saying is the math is mathing. And going back to my vision, my That's So Raven vision, that the final sentence of Chain of Thorns is going to be "and Matthew ran," or Matthew ran, is because, again, people are going to find out that he's a downworlder now, and he's going to be excommunicated from the Shadowhunter Society. I would like to think that the Merry Thieves, at the bare minimum, James and Cordelia would know what happened with him, but then a part of me is also fearful by the fact that when he recites those lines from Great Expectations, surrounded by James and Cordelia, the two people he loves most in this world, and Cassandra Clare, you better not do this. I hate to think that everyone moves on accepting the fact that he died and no one knows that he came back to life. I would hate to see that, and that better not happen. Just the thought of intermission grief, something big is gonna happen. I feel like that's big enough to shake the core of my being, to shake the world off its axis. Let me stop thinking. Those are more or less my theories. I'm scared. This is the final shot of me looking coherent before Chain of Thorns.
Girl, I'm only 6 pages in. People often told James that he was like Will, which he knew was a compliment. All his life, his father had seemed the strongest man he knew, the most principled, the most fierce with his love. Will did not question himself. No, James was nothing like Will Herondale. Nine pages in, first official update. Did not read the prologue because the sneak peek was only the first chapter. So the prologue, pain. Now I'm in the first chapter. I already know what happens. Still pain. I really thought, I was like, you know, I can read all day today, all day tomorrow. Thinking, in theory, if I really put my mind to it, I could finish this in 2, maybe 3 days. But that's not accounting for all the mental breakdowns I'm gonna have. So with that in mind, we're probably gonna be here for a week. I'm about 6 chapters in. Tab update. That's how little I've read. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I'm 110 pages in. Many thoughts occurred, most of which I wish I had not thought of. Where to begin? Because again, I feel like those 100 pages were very jam-packed. The first thing that I am thinking of right now is the fact that James and Cordelia share like some mental bond because their dreams are overlapping. Why is it that Cordelia is dreaming about James not remembering her, but then James is dreaming of Cordelia not remembering him? However, when James is dreaming about her, he can kind of like see her present day almost, whereas like Cordelia only sees him like past version of him, almost like she sees a memory of James as opposed to James seeing Cordelia as she is like in present day. I'm wondering if that's to do with the necklace, maybe, like that's why he can see her in present day. I don't know. That's concerning. Also, it's a relief to me, but it's also very painful because the fact that James can finally be open, at least with himself, about his feelings for Cordelia and his love for Cordelia. As much as I love finally seeing that and him finally like living his truth, all the more reason why the wait is excruciating, because I want them to be able to have their one-on-one, for them to come face to face with each other for the first time. So the wait is excruciating. The fact that I can't skim through Lucy and Grace's chapters is a crime against me personally, because Grace, I can't stand her. If there were 100 haters of hers, I'd be one of them. If there were 10, I'd be one of them. If there was one hater, it would be me. If her haters were dead. Lucy, on the other hand, is in the doghouse for me, especially with how she was acting in Chain of Iron. I want to smack her so bad, so bad. I'm so annoyed by her, and I just need her to communicate. I need her to make things right. I don't know. I can't stand her right now. Cordelia and Matthew. First of all, we're already getting mentions of vampires, so I'm looking. We're also getting fairy mentions a lot more than the other two books, I feel like. One of the things that Cassie had talked about was how someone in City of Bones is going to show up in Chain of Thorns. I really thought it was going to be Camille because, again, a French vampire, but she was only mentioned in City of Bones and not by name. Like, she was mentioned as, like, the head of the vampire clan in Paris. So they never mentioned her by name, but she was mentioned. So that was kind of my guess. Why was it Madame Dorothea? That was so bland. Like, of all the people, I was very underwhelmed, to say the least. But alas, I'm side-eyeing Matthew. Because as much as I would love to believe that he's sober like Cordelia, the math is not mathing. If he's a recovering alcoholic, he would not be fine and dandy like he is right now. Like, it definitely would take a lot longer to recover, and he can't do like a complete 180, especially like at the rate he was going in Chain of Gold and Chain of Iron. And the fact that like she could tell when he was like pretending like everything was fine, especially when they went to Paris, they were both exhausted, but then he appeared like he was fine. So I'm like, if he could do that then, why wouldn't he be able to do that about being sober? So I don't know what that's about. I'm concerned. I'm nervous because I really feel like something's gonna happen with Cordelia and Matthew in Paris. And to add on to that, the fact that Matthew keeps saying he can't say no to Cordelia, and Cordelia fully believing that James doesn't love her, I feel as though something may happen. Grace being arrested. Grace getting arrested following the events of Chain of Iron by none other than Jem, an icon. I love him so much. The fact that a Carstairs is delivering justice to her. He did this for Cordelia. He did this for Cordelia. He did this for James. My surprise to seeing her in jail, which honestly I was cheering. Like I said, I'm a hater. I was cheering when she was in jail. But again, like, as much as I despise her, I really appreciate like the direction that Cassie's going in terms of like showing us how Grace is coming to terms with everything, but also like how she's starting to own up to things and showing how difficult it is because of how long she's been controlled, how long she's been brainwashed. And I can appreciate like her like starting to take responsibility for the actions and the harm that she caused. So I'm really glad we're at least getting that, and it's not like a whole like redemption arc. If she was just getting a straight up redemption arc, I would not be very happy, because again, you can't, with all the bad stuff she's done, you can't just flip a switch. So I'm glad she's like realizing she's really putting in the hard work of like taking responsibility for all the harm she's done, all the bad things she's done to everyone, and then from then on trying to like heal and become better. Like, that I can appreciate, that I can respect. So I'm interested to see how things are gonna go for her. And I also like read really fast. Like, I read 100 pages relatively fast, and I'm a somewhat slow reader, so that's pretty good for me. Honestly, I feel like that's the anxiety manifesting itself into me reading fast. I really want to get through this fast, but like not too fast. I want to take my time, but I'm also anxious and I need to know what's going on. So yeah, that's how things are going. I will be updating you accordingly.
A few moments later.
I know I did not just read what I read. I know I did not just read what I read. Oh no. Why did I call this? No. What is this? What is the meaning of this? No. Don't joke. Exactly. someone call the wee woo machine.
I was never strong enough for this. It was never this serious.
It was never this serious. Cassandra Clare was like, try me, bitch. First of all, what a sick and twisted joke. How did she make my crack theory worse? We literally called this happening, but somehow we still weren't prepared.
We were prepared for this, and somehow it still didn't work.
And somehow it got worse.
It got worse.
On top of it being worse, we got visual aid.
Let's talk about the visual aid.
A crime. We are this far in. It's already bad.
Just bad. Everything's bad. I don't know what to say.
We need to talk. Cassandra Clare, that was the messiest, most fucked up shit I have ever seen her pull. I feel like objectively, I would have been eating it up. Like, if it was any other situation, I'd be like, oh, the drama of it all, like eating it up, licking my fingers clean. However, the circumstances of what had taken place, wow. Let's backtrack. So, something was going to occur between Matthew and Cordelia in Paris. Because it's Paris, in close proximity. It was in the air. I've been in shackles with Cassandra Clare for over 10 years. I know how her brain works. Or at least I thought I did. In the sense that I was like, I feel like they're gonna have a little smooch in an alleyway, and then James would pop up. I was like, I feel like that's the type of drama that Cassandra Clare would do. And then that was further fueled by the fact that Matthew had told Cordelia that he could never say no to her. And I was like, I'm so scared. The thoughts that she's constantly having in Paris is that she's like, I should be happy. And like, I completely understand where she's coming from. And like, she's like, I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be with someone who wants me and is very vocal about wanting me. So why shouldn't I want this? Like, this is what I want and deserve. And so, first of all, the fact that she was thinking that, the fact that Matthew was like, I can never say no to you. I feel like to convince herself in a time of need, in the sense that like when she's really like in the trenches about her feelings and whatnot, she's gonna ask Matthew to like distract her or to kiss her, and he can't say no to her. I was like, I feel like that's gonna happen. Tell me why that's what happened. And then Cassandra Clare added gasoline to everything, and it made it 10 times worse. Nothing could have prepared me for the line. Let's go back to the hotel, Daisy. Excuse me? The first offense was the fact that Cordelia offered to tell a story from the Shahnameh to Matthew before James. That was strike number 1. Strike number 2 was the let's go back to the hotel, Daisy. Strike number 3, the killing blow for me. Nothing could have prepared me. Because again, I was like, why are we going 0 to 100 all of a sudden? Not even why are we going 0 to astronomical right now of them going into the hotel. Strike number 3 truly was the fact that Matthew bridal carried Cordelia into a room where her husband was. That was sick and twisted. That was so sick and twisted. And then ending the chapter on James, italicized. I had to take a good hour break after reading that. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect after that. I was like, girl, what the hell is going on? Then I continue, as one does. And why did it get worse? Why did it keep getting worse? And then when James pulled out the absinthe bottle and said that he got it from Matthew's room, and Cordelia realized why Matthew tasted like candy. No, because that was like a dumpster fire I could not look away from. I felt like I was on the verge of hives breaking out all over my body. On top of that, it's like I couldn't look away. Like, I need to know what's happening. Wow. wow. And then Cordelia talking about how she finally is with someone or experiencing someone who actually wants her, and it's mutual feeling for once, because she had a husband that didn't want her. It was like blow after blow after blow. Wow. That was insane. After that 1 hour break, I continued reading, and it started to get very plot heavy. I was like, Miss Cassandra Clare, this is not the time to throw plot in my face, okay? We need to communicate first. I need to settle this drama before we even get to the plot. Lilith can sit her ass down in her little hellhole. She can wait. She's not priority right now. Priority is figuring out what the hell is going on with Heron Fairstairs. We get to the part of Cordelia being like, literally everyone I know has lied to me. That sat very heavy on my heart. My girl is going through it. And then it kept getting worse because James follows her out of the institute and tells her I love her. Which, okay, James Herondale, I have a bone to pick with you. Because why do you constantly keep thinking, I can't tell anyone about the abuse that Grace put me through until I tell Cordelia, because Cordelia is the one I need to tell first before anyone else. Okay, valid, very true. Okay, let's get on with it. He had 2 or 3 opportunities to tell her, and every single one of those opportunities, he was like, no, I don't want to tell her, because then it's going to seem like I'm making excuses, and she's not going to believe it, and even if I told her, it's going to, like, shackle her to me. First of all, you're directly contradicting yourself. How do you go from 1 minute saying, I can only tell Daisy, like, I have to tell Daisy first before anyone else, to then saying, no, I can't tell her because I don't want to shackle her to me? Which goes to my second point. Why do you think that Cordelia is not capable of making her own decisions? Like, tell her first, get it off your chest. That way everyone is on an even playing field of information. Everyone has the same knowledge of information. And then let her decide. No, because that pissed me off so bad last night. When they went into the ballroom with Lucy and Jessie, she kept rubbing salt in the wound. And then it got to a point where salt wasn't enough and she, like, added lemon juice. Genuinely, what was frustrating me and upsetting me last night when I was reading it was the fact that, like, I can't say that any of them are acting out of character. Because all of Cordelia's inner monologues, they're so valid. It's so understandable why she's thinking that way. Like, she's been put through so much shit in a span of, like, a very short time, thinking that everyone's lying to her. No one ever really cared for her, especially James. With the information that she had, she genuinely thought that her husband didn't love her. My girl was working with the information that she had. Matthew, he's just struggling. He's on a struggle bus. Anything he would tell Cordelia, yes, he hid the fact that he was drinking. Aside from that, he's been very open with his feelings towards Cordelia without overstepping his boundaries. And he himself acknowledged, he was like, I know where the boundaries are, and I'm not the type of person to overstep boundaries that are clearly there. So I respected that as well. And then James, I totally understand, like, the fear of him wanting to finally tell people, because again, he was brainwashed for so long. I can totally understand and empathize with all 3 of them. But I'm like, Cassandra Clare is digging herself into a hole that just keeps getting deeper and deeper and deeper. What truly frustrated me and made me, like, close the book and go to sleep was the fact that, like, I don't see how she's gonna dig herself out. And I was like, no wonder this book is so friggin' long, because we're almost 200 pages in and she has dug herself into a hole that's literally going to the center of the earth. I don't know how she's gonna get out of this. And now it's confirmed that James and Matthew both love Cordelia. Cordelia clearly loves them both. I don't see how this is going to end well. Yesterday, I spontaneously ended up reading the first 9 chapters with Mariam. We were like, so should we start this together? And we just ended up holding each other's hands on FaceTime the entire time. And that was a very good decision on our part, because Wow, that was so bad. I really feel like that's what we needed to kind of rip the band-aid off, like have that support to rip the band-aid off, and then you'd be okay. Okay is not the right word. More capable of reading on our own and like reading more. So I feel like that's really what we needed yesterday. It finally got to the point of numbness. It got to the point of numbness where I was like, just let the blows keep hitting me. I was waiting for that moment because that's why it was taking me so long to read yesterday, but wow, it happened. I achieved numbness. Thank you, Cassandra Clare. So now I feel like hopefully I can read more today. Yeah. Here's the tab update. We've only made it through this much of the book. Sick and twisted. Bruh, oh my, no. This is too much. This is too much. Let's just go home. Yes, let's go home to Curzon Street. That house is our home. It was to be your home with Grace. You never pretended that it wouldn't eventually be hers. I never thought of living there with her. Cordelia, come home. I don't think it would be a good idea for me to return to Curzon Street. She had called Cornwall Gardens home, had made it clear she did not think of their house in Curzon Street that way, and yet he could not blame her. Literally 9 pages later, she looked up at the house. She was fond of it, fond of the calm white front, the shiny black 102 painted on the rightmost pillar, fond of the quiet, leafy London street. But it was not home, she thought, as she followed Alistair up the front path to the door. This was her mother's house, a refuge but not a home. Home was Curzon Street. What the hell am I supposed to do with this? I genuinely don't think I'm built for this. Like, I genuinely believe, like, it was a stroke of luck and good fortune that this book was pushed off to the extent that it was, because I'm not built for this right now, but I definitely was not built for this in 2022. No. Oh my gosh. I just realized that we never got a James point of view when he first brought Cordelia to Curzon Street and he was giving her a tour of the house. We never got a point of view of his because he had the bracelet on. So we never knew what he was thinking or feeling because he himself didn't know what he was thinking or feeling. Oh God. Christopher going to check on James and Thomas going to check on Matthew. And Christopher saying we're the merry thieves, one for all and all for one. No! How much love people have denied themselves through the ages because they believe they did not deserve it, as if the waste of love is not the greater tragedy. I feel like we are finally starting to be on the healing journey. I would like to think so, because this is excruciating. Cordelia truly is so me. She's so me. She's worried about everyone else but herself. This was a personal call out. Not Lucy giving Cordelia an attitude. I swear, this bitch is pissing me off. I can't do this. Oh my God. Because when someone you love is leaving, all you think about is getting them back. This is why this shit is so long. Because these bitches won't communicate. Oh, the girls are tussling. Tear that bitch apart. I know she is not. I hate Lucy Herondale so much. Oh, this immature ass bitch, I swear. Oh
Oh my gosh. I hate her. No, because why is she pulling the victim card? No. She's pulling the victim card. She's trying to pull the Uno reverse card. She's pulling all the cards that would make anyone else except her look bad. Gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. My girl Cordelia gave her the trip back down to reality. She gave her the biggest reality check, and Lucy clearly did not want to hear it. You were never a friend to her in everything that had happened in Chain of Iron. Never once did she ever put anyone but herself first. She never once checked in on Cordelia. She was never once a good friend to Cordelia. Now she's upset that Cordelia is finally telling her straight up what a shitty friend she's been. And now she's pulling the victim card. She's not holding back. Yes! I'm winning. I'm winning. I'm winning. It has a name. Grace Blackthorn. I can't! But mostly I'm so proud of Cordelia because she's been putting everyone's needs above herself. Finally, my girl chose herself for once. Yes! I don't know what to do. I just don't. Maybe get your head out of your ass. It keeps getting worse for her. Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I could say I feel bad for Lucy, but I don't. Lucy getting her ass beat by Cordelia. Grace getting her ass beat by Jessie. What did I say? If there's one thing I need to happen in this book is for those two bitches to get the consequences to their actions. I'm cheering.
Alistair is murmuring Farsi to Thomas as they're kissing. And I was like, wait, this is very deep. I need to search upon this. It's actually from Persian poetry that I didn't know existed. And it's from a Persian poem called The Beloved. And it's about two young men in love. And he says, Ey pesar, nik zehad mi bebari kar jamal, ba kunin hosn ze to sabr konam. And basically that means, oh boy, you carry the business of beauty beyond all limits. With such beauty, you expect me to bide my time. What just happened? Oh, bitch, they're going back to Curzon Street for the first time. Do you understand that I am terrified every moment of every day and night for your safety? Bitch, we are almost halfway through this book. I need them to freaking confess. If she makes me wait until the end of this stupid ass book for them to confess, I'm gonna yeet myself into the ocean. Not James being like, oh no, we are not chatting. No.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck, man?
What the hell just happened? And I thought, had I made you as miserable as that, I have made so many mistakes, but none were calculated to hurt you. And then I saw what you were doing, and I thought, yes, she does want to die. She wants to die, and this is how she's chosen to do it. You cannot hurt yourself, Daisy. You must not. Hate me, hit me, do anything you want to me. Cut up my suits and set fire to my books. Tear my heart into pieces. Scatter them across England, but do not harm yourself. I swear to the angel, if you die, and I will haunt you. I will give you no peace. The Wuthering Heights parallels? You say that I killed you. Haunt me then. If you die, and I will haunt you. I will give you no peace. And then commences this wild as shit makeout session that, yes, I am cheering, but I am so appalled by what I'm seeing that I can't fully celebrate, especially by the fact that, yet again, we're getting fucking parallels of the last scene that we got of James and Cordelia at Curzon Street before freaking Grace showed up, of him telling her to wait upstairs. Oh my god. Someone knocks on the door. Daisy, don't go. I'll get rid of whoever it is. You can wait upstairs. But she was already backing away. I need to tell you something, to show you something. I swear to God.
It's too much right now. I can't. She sucked in a breath. She so desperately wanted to tell him she would wait for him upstairs. She so desperately wanted him. It felt like some sort of insanity. Her whole body screamed at her, be with him, touch him, let him love you. But upstairs waiting was where she had been, where she had seen him with Grace. She could not relive that experience, and she could not trust her body. She knew that well enough. Tomorrow, she said, at the party, we'll talk then. I swear to you, if we get interrupted again, I'm not living through what we went through at the end of Chain of Iron. I'm sick of that shit. Oh my god, why are they so tragic? They're stressing me out. And why the hell is it always the Blackthorn siblings? First it was Grace, now it's Jessie.
So, how would you rate this experience?
Meaning traditional rating system.
This is so sick. No!
Hey, dude.
Are you? No. The letter, bitch.
No.
Not this again with the letters.
Why did she leave?
It means I would rather have a home with you than all the world. If you cannot believe me now, believe the James who gave you that necklace long before you left for Paris. My God, what other reason could I have for placing those verses there, save that I loved you, but was too much a coward to say it. So he wrote that while having the bracelet on.
What does she want me to do with this information?
What do you mean he kissed her again? Excuse me? There was love but not passion. Girl, what it... I knew this party was gonna be messy, but what the hell? Am I so hard to... No. We're not having a repeat again. Am I so hard to love? She's both messy and bold. He had the bracelet on when he wrote that. He says, I literally wrote that before I gave it to you.
Oh no, you're 30 more pages and cover the page when you're yeah, I guess.
It says, Cordelia had been glad Christopher was there too, otherwise it might have seemed too much like a strange dream to have really happened. I thought she was gonna say, I'm glad he was there so I could beat the fuck out of her. Damn, okay. Yet again, Cordelia's better than me. At them rolling down the stairs! I'm screaming! They collided on the landing. They tumbled into a heap, rolling over and skidding down several steps. No! 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 I love you. Ashekatam. I love you. Without you, I cannot breathe. Daisy, what? Grace? Girl, shut up! But what snapped that band was the force of what I felt for you. Rehydrate.
Yeah, no, exactly. I agree. That's exactly what I thought.
I'm glad we agree. If it were not for you, my Daisy, I would have belonged to Belial long ago, for there is no one else in this world, my most beautiful, maddening, adorable wife, that I could ever have loved half as much as I have loved you. My heart beats for you, only ever you. The things you did to me when you came to me wanting help with your corset on our wedding night.
Steve, it's no.
No, there's a picture.
Nice. I would not have been horrified. I want you to do things to me. I want to do things to you.
Bitch, get ready for this. He took out the pistol and fired it at the Interesting.
You are my first, Cordelia. You are all my firsts. I feel like the magnitude of the situation is just it's like I feel like I'm reading fanfic. This doesn't feel real. Are they showering together? They were in the bathtub together. And now here they were, man and wife in absolute truth.
Yep.
We're winning so hard right now.
No one has won like this in the history of winning.
No one's winning like we are right now. Suddenly all the wrongs that she put me through, you know what, I would gladly accept. I will gladly accept again. Whispering Room, who? Chapter 16 of Chain of Iron, who? I only know her. I only know Miss 23.
23.
I zoom in on this picture. Bitch, they're on the stairs. Okay, we're gonna zoom in. We're gonna zoom in. Zoom in. That's so sick. Okay. They're on the stairs.
Hello. It's officially day 3. Just got home from work. I think we're gonna hunker down and finish the book today. We have this much left. I'm scared. I need to reassess what occurred last night. I've never won so hard in my life before. Jordelia's stands are winning. And again, I was fully aware that I was winning in the moment, but the magnitude and intensity and sheer importance of that moment did not hit me until like a full night's sleep. And that's all I was thinking about on my way to work, as one does. I'm still in the afterglow. I still can't believe that actually happened. And you know, we won also because we didn't have to wait till the end of the book. Yes, you're over halfway when it happened, but it did not happen at like 98%. So that was a win in its own right. My soul is at peace. My spirit is at rest now. I was genuinely concerned about how the love triangle between Cordelia, James, and Matthew was going to be handled. Okay, I will be fully upfront about it. But the way it was handled, Cordelia was messy. Okay, she was very messy for how she went about handling it initially. When she put her hands on his chest, I really thought she was gonna like gently push him away. What do you mean she grabbed hold of him and kissed him? I screamed because I was living for the drama, but also I was terrified. I was like, what is happening in front of my eyes? James was eavesdropping. I love these 3. They're so messy. After the initial messy start, finally we got communication, y'all. We got communication. It took friggin' over half of the book, but we finally got there. And I am cheering. I'm smiling. Hard work pays off. I'm very happy with how it was handled in that sense, that they were finally able to communicate. Was it painful? Yes. I feel as though I was in pain to the point where I couldn't cry because that line of Matthew saying, "Am I not worthy of love?" Wow. That reopened my wound that had salt and lemon on it. That concerned me. I am upset that we were robbed of the Cordelia and Grace showdown. But upon sleeping on it and upon thinking about it more, the way that situation was handled, I very much appreciated. And in hindsight, I think it was done very well because, again, how many times do we have to rehash all the shit that Grace has done? We already know the extent of her wrongs and her wrongdoings. I feel like it was more impactful the way it was handled, that we literally got a parallel to the last chapter of Chain of Iron, but it did a 180 healing rotation of her running back home to him when she found out the truth. That will forever replay in my brain because wow. In that moment, my trust in Cassie Clare was returned. She was on thin ice with me, but that really restored my faith and trust in her. Well done, because over a decade of being a reader of hers was not in vain. The fact that they were on stairs, let's cheer, let's celebrate, we weren't interrupted finally, and we got 3 scenes back to back to back. The most iconic part of the book thus far, and it was Jordelia. Wow, still astounds me. She consistently outdid herself. Chain of Gold, we got the Whispering Room. Wow, never been done before. Chain of Iron, we got a lot of iconic moments, I must say. We got the rope scene, the marriage, the wedding ceremony, a lot of iconic moments, but this, chapter 23, you can't outdo the doer, and only Cassandra Clare can outdo herself, and that I respect. She should have made The Last Hour's New Adult. I need the extended cut. I'm so happy that we got those 3 scenes. However, I need a full novella of them. Girl, I could talk about this chapter for hours, but the fact you really got Cordelia saying, I love you, Ashekatam, and y'all, she used the there's a platonic version where you say Duset Daram, and there's a romantic version where you say Ashekatam, and she said Ashekatam. I really wish she didn't stop there. I really wish she said all those terms of endearment. I know for a fact this is gonna be finished today because there's a fire under my ass now, and I'm like, I'm collecting these Persian kings like Infinity Stones. We have James. James is an honorary Persian king in my eyes. And now we're getting Thomas bringing Sona a basket of fruits and saying, Gavel Nadere. He's husband material. Alistair ringed this man because he literally brought Sona a basket of fruits. If you want to be on the good side of any immigrant, especially a Persian, you bring fruits. Fruits are essential. Fruits are a love language. So he knew. That's my second honorary Persian king. I'm scared because I'm almost to intermission grief. Lord knows what that's about. The main thing I'm fearful about is like, I really want to know what the hell's gonna happen with Matthew. I'm fully convinced he's gonna turn into a vampire. I'm like, what are the circumstances? That would be so sick and twisted if the second like he continues to do well on his sobriety, he gets turned to a vampire and turns to another addiction, which is blood. Back to this package that I got. This is relevant book mail. I had ordered the signed, personalized copy of Chain of Thorns because if there's one thing about me, I will be getting a personalized copy of probably the most traumatic book in a series by Cassandra Clare. That was like fully not intentional. It's just, I went to BookCon when Lord of Shadows had come out, so I got Lord of Shadows personalized and signed, and that was so traumatic to me. And so like, I feel as though I had a good feeling that Chain of Thorns was going to be very traumatic for me. So, you know, first opportunity for me at least to like get a personalized copy of one of the books in the series. So I needed to. Like, that was the first thing. I need to have a personalized copy of one book in the series. It just seemed fitting. Here she is. Nothing new. We've already seen her. I'm happy. Momentarily. I'm happy while I can be happy. You see the shelf? I have 2 shelves of Cassandra Clare books. I fear for when I have to add this to my shelf. So next time you see me, I'm probably like gonna be in the depths of despair and distress. I'm scared. How many times are we gonna start a chapter with Cordelia Rand? This is twice too many. Bitch, I've never been so happy to see Lilith in my life. You've got Belial's little minion at the end of your blade. Now go ahead and cut his throat. Per bestie. Girl, I thought 'tis but a flesh wound. What do you mean Christopher's dead? He was just injured in his shoulder. He can't be dead though, right? That was my sunshine baby. It was poisoned. No. That's my girl. I mean, he's flying on a bird, but it's not talking yet, so...
12 seconds later.
The bird is talking? Girl, what is the truth? I don't like it here. Bitch, I'm stressed.
Bitch, I hate it here. Girl, I'm scared. What is going on? Hello? Girl, what is going on? I only have 3 chapters left and 125 pages left. What is up with the Carstairs siblings reading to their loved ones when they're unwell? No. خیلی عاشقتم. I love you very much. Wow. I love Thomas. We can die together. I would hope not. Shit. James is possessed. Less than 100 pages now. Bro, my hands are sweating so bad. We're in the final chapter. I want it to end for my own mental health, for my own sanity, but I also don't want to say goodbye to them. Like, I don't want to leave them. I don't want to be without them. But for my own sanity, I need this to be done. Wow. And with that, my favorite trilogy of all time has come to a close. We did it. We did it, Joe. We made it to the other side. And I have never been so happy to be proven wrong in my entire life, in the sense that I really went into this book expecting it to have a level of devastation, despair, grief, sadness, everything akin to Clockwork Princess, maybe even worse. And I've never been so happy to be proven wrong. I ended this book feeling warm, fuzzy, content, and just overall very pleased. I think the best way for me to wrap this up, because this vlog is already very long, I already kind of vented about everything that I felt while reading this book, so I think I'm just gonna kind of talk about my personal feelings and like how I felt about how everything wrapped up, and then kind of take a step back now that I've completed the trilogy and I can view it as a whole. Then I'll kind of talk about the things I was happy about, the things I feel like could have been handled better. I think you could kind of tell by watching my reactions in the vlog that this wasn't a 5-star. It did, however, end up being a 4-star. And to me, that's a success. That's a win. This wouldn't have gotten lower than a 4 to begin with because I refused. But objectively, this was a strong 4 for me. And that's a win. I'm very pleased with that. So my biggest priority was Georgelia getting their happy ever after, and they did. Never thought I'd see the day. After 778 pages, they finally got their happy ending, and I've never been so happy in my entire life. Now that I can look at the series as a whole, I can look back on it, and I already knew this going into this book, that Georgelia was one of my favorite ships ever, but this book just confirmed what I already knew subconsciously and already accepted and already absorbed into the fiber of my being, that Georgelia is my favorite fictional ship ever. Ever, ever, ever. Number 1 in my heart, soul, everything. No one's doing it like them. No one's doing it like them. They're the best Shadowhunter ship. They're the best ship to ever exist. Yeah, I could not have asked for a happier ending for them. I'm over the moon. I'm elated that I can look back on this series, on this trilogy, with nothing but fondness and warm fuzzy feelings and just overall happiness. It's been a week since I finished it, and I've been living in that epilogue ever since then. I'm still in that epilogue. That was such a stark contrast to the epilogue of Clockwork Princess, which is what I was expecting for this book. I'm so happy that we ended up getting something so much happier, so much more hopeful. And I know going into this book that Cassandra Clare had mentioned that she wanted this book to end on a happier note, on a more hopeful note, as opposed to her original ending. Because of the world that we're living in now, she was writing it during the height of the pandemic when everyone needed a little bit of hope, and I'm so happy that she stuck with that. I'm so happy that she pushed through and delivered one of the most hopeful and heartwarming conclusions to a trilogy and a series that I have ever read. And I already was expecting a lot of rereads in my future. Like I said, this series is never leaving me. It'll never end for me. But now
that I've finished it. I'm so happy that going into the rereads, I know that everything works out for the best. I know that it's a happy ending. Everyone gets their happy endings. So I'm very relieved. And I think that it'll make just the reading experience a lot less stressful as it has been thus far. I'm so happy that we got to see Ari and Anna have their happy ending, Thomas and Alistair having their happy ending, Lucy and Jesse. Yes, I am happy for their happy ending, but sadly, they're still at the bottom. But regardless, I still am very happy for them. Like I said, I've been living in that epilogue ever since I finished the book a week ago. My lifestyle has just been me working, studying, and thinking about the Chain of Thorns epilogue. I want to live with them. I'm moving in. I've just been listening to my Drodelia and Last Hours playlists to cope. Ever since then, I haven't stopped. If you'd like to listen, I linked it down below. Reading that epilogue, I truly feel as though the series isn't over. And while talking to my friends Mariam and Daria, we were discussing how it just doesn't feel like a conclusion. It just feels like a placeholder, if that makes sense. And I fully expect that we're either gonna get a book 4 or get a collection of short stories, and I feel as though getting a collection of short stories is the most likely outcome for us to get. And I know recently at one of her signings, Cassandra Clare did confirm that she is writing short stories. Thank God. I'm so happy because, again, I will never have enough of these characters. I will consistently beg for more content as long as I can beg her for more content. I just want to be on their travels. Like, they were all walking off into the sunset talking about all their travels and where they're wanting to go. I'm like, hello, why are you walking away from me? Like, take me with you. So I'm really hoping that Cassandra Clare gives us that collection of short stories sooner rather than later. I know her track record. I know she's going to be on hiatus, but I need that at some point. I need it. So I was very pleased with practically how all of the characters were handled. Now thinking back on the book, I can kind of understand where I thought the weaknesses were. The strengths, of course, we know they're the characters. That's her biggest strength, and this trilogy really proved how strong her skill set is, and this is her strongest cast of characters thus far. I think that's a well-known fact in the fandom. While I was pretty happy with everyone's character involvement and whatnot, I feel as though Matthew really did get the short end of the stick. She really played me like a fool. I really was fully convinced that he was going to be turned immortal somehow by the end of the book. Circumstance-wise, while I'm happy that that wasn't the case because we finally got to see him on his sobriety journey and how realistic that was, I really appreciated that. And now looking back again, I'm really happy that she didn't make him turn into a vampire, because that would have been a cruel, sick joke for him to deal with one addiction only to turn to another addiction. So in that sense, I'm really happy that that did not happen. However, selfishly, I was fully convinced that he was going to be the tie from the Last Hours to the Wicked Powers. My personal opinion of what I think those short stories should be is us following the main 3. Obviously, I want to see all the Merry Thieves, but I feel like we should really follow James, Cordelia, and Matthew, but primarily Matthew because, again, he kind of got the short end of the stick in Chain of Thorns. I would really like to see more of his character's development, and, like, how he kind of grows from the events that occurred in Chain of Thorns. I feel like it really sets him up for a really interesting personal journey. I still haven't let go of the thought that he is the connecting thread between the Last Hours and the Wicked Powers. I feel as though so much can happen on his travels. Rather than vampirism, I feel as though he's somehow going to get connected to the fairy realm. Now looking back, there was a lot more imagery in comparison to fairies as opposed to vampires in Chain of Thorns specifically, but also throughout the series. And while I wish we got this as a second epilogue, because I know some of her books have 2 epilogues, while I wish this really would have been a very strong second epilogue, and I really wish we got it, I feel as though on his travels he's gonna get stuck in the fairy realm, and that would attest to the imagery that we've been getting. That would attest to all the talk of immortality and eternal youth, and that would be such a perfect way to tie in those 2 series, in my opinion. And I would have liked to see it. I hope we get to see it. In terms of sadness, that would be a lot of parallels between him and Jem, which I won't get into, but I feel as though that would have been a great way to continue seeing his character if we do get that. Also, speaking on character development, Alistair and Thomas really carried this book for me. Like, I ended up falling head over heels in love with both of them. I loved them so much. Like, this book truly was the Carstairs siblings book. This was Alistair and Cordelia's book, rightfully so. That was a personal win for me. Love to see it. And now to talk about the villains and the plot of the book. I feel as though the structure of the book was its biggest weakness and why I ended up giving it a 4 instead of a 5, because the structure definitely needed some work and could have been improved upon to make it overall a lot stronger. If we had the whole confrontation of Matthew, James, and Cordelia, if we had all that drama addressed within the first 30%, I feel like then we really could have gotten into the rest of the plot. I feel like it would have made everything move a lot smoother. That's not to say that I'm complaining about the length of the book. Personally, I would not have minded if it was even longer. Like, I was really expecting it to be the length of Queen of Air and Darkness. It wouldn't have reached a level of convolutedness compared to Queen of Air and Darkness, even if it was longer. But had the structure been different, I feel like it would have been a lot stronger as a whole. That's why the book felt so long, was because that confrontation was dragged out for so long, and that didn't need to happen. That should have been addressed within the first 30%, and then we could have gone on with the rest of the book. Also, in terms of the couples, because this is a 10 character cast, that requires a lot of page time, a lot of character development. That's not something you want to rush through. Again, that's Cassie's biggest strength, is going through character development, character strength, characterization in general. That's very little wiggle room to address all these character developments for 10 individual characters. Add on top of that the romantic developments between the pairings, and the conflicts of all the relationships were getting to a point of redundancy because they were all exhibiting issues with self-sacrifice. I get that with Jordelia, but then it started to get redundant because then it got into Thomas and Alistair, then it got into Anna and Ari, then it got to Lucy and Jesse. Girl, I'm tired. Like, we don't need to rehash the same issue with all the couples. What's the point? I feel as though she was doing that to make it longer, and again, there are plenty of ways to make the book longer and not be redundant about it. Then, in terms of the villains, the real villain was Tatiana Blackthorn. Lilith and Belial, they were child's play compared to her. Lilith was a slay, Belial was camp, Tatiana was a real villain. That woman is insane. She's the real villain as far as I'm concerned. The stakes, I must say, with Lilith and Belial, the stakes were slightly higher with Lilith. However, she and Cordelia had similar motives in terms of wanting to get rid of Belial, so some of that conflict didn't make sense to me. And Belial, I was like, okay, like literally the stakes were non-existent for me, and I was like, okay, I already know everything's gonna be fixed. Again, that wasn't the strong suit. The strong suit was the characters, but again, I feel as though everything could have been spaced out and handled and structured a lot better to make for a stronger book. The parallels between City of Heavenly Fire and Chain of Thorns was something really interesting to see. In terms of character deaths, I really was expecting more. Again, I was expecting it to be very devastating in terms of a conclusion to this trilogy. I am still sad about Christopher. However, I feel as though like he wasn't a very big character in comparison to the others. I feel like they were really starting to develop him more in this book, but again, he really wasn't at the forefront. Selfishly, I'm glad that he was spared being with Grace. Him saying that she was his unfinished business was kind of corny to me. R.I.P. King, but overall, I'm really happy that we didn't get more deaths. This was just a very special experience because, again, it was the conclusion to my all-time favorite trilogy. This trilogy means everything to me. If you watched my Chain of Iron vlog, you would know, but this is the first trilogy, let alone a fantasy trilogy, where I saw myself genuinely and joyfully represented. I had never seen a main character of a prominent fantasy franchise have the same heritage as me, being half Persian like me, speaking Farsi on the page, which is a language I grew up speaking with my family. That trilogy just means more than words could describe. For that reason, it'll just always live with me. It'll always be a part of me. I can't believe it's over. I can't believe it's over. Like, again, I really feel as though it's not actually over because, again, Cassie did mention we're getting short stories, and I'm holding her to that. I desperately need it so bad. Here we are with all those we love and those who love us. We are home. And with that, I think we can conclude this vlog. I'm so happy I got to experience this with my dear friends, Mariam and Daria and Azanta. This series means so much to me for so many reasons. Thank you for tuning in. If you watched until now, thank you. If you've read this book, feel free to discuss in the comments. I'd love to know what your thoughts were. Hope you enjoyed this vlog. And yeah, until next time.
It's 5:50 something and I feel so empty inside.